Hey everyone, today in this video, I'm going to be checking out the NARWAL Freo Pro. Special thanks and huge shout out to NARWAL for sending us this sample. I was able to see this vacuum in action at CES, but I'm excited to have it here in the studio so we can really put it through some testing. If you're interested in this product or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Here's a look at the retail box and packaging, highlighting its key features front and center. 8,500 pascals of suction power, zero tangle floating brush. If you haven't seen any NARWAL content, at least from us, we love that floating brush. It's one of the best ones out there. NARWAL definitely innovated in this area with that conical shape design. This also comes with dirt sense, rewashing, and remopping, and all-in-one base station. So everything's covered there, from vacuum, mopping, washing, intelligence to identify dirty areas and re-clean, as well as to avoid hair tangles. Now let's open it up. Let's see what's inside. Here are all the contents. First up, we have our product literature, followed by our power cord and cable that's in white that matches the station and the vacuum. Next, you'll find our left and right side cleaning brushes. These are upgraded and different from previous NARWAL Freo devices. These move around and rotate. That aids in their detangling. I'll show you how that works here in a minute when we get those installed. Next, we have what they call a spare dustbin. This is just like your traditional dustbin with filter, and we can press to release to get access to the inside. And then we can pop the filter out right there. And why that's a spare dustbin is because inside the vacuum, they have disposable dustbins that you can use. So here's a look at the vacuum. We'll check this out in more detail in a second, followed by, last but not least, the NARWAL station. Let's check these out in more detail. Starting with the top of the Freo Pro, you'll notice a couple of stickers that we can remove. We have NARWAL's logo and branding, LiDAR navigation module, home button, and power button. This top cover is removable. It just snaps right off. A couple of magnets and a little clip right there on the back side. We need to remove this protective piece of foam before use. Now the bumper can move freely. And that reveals our included disposable dustbin. Take a look at this dustbin right here. So cool. So basically it does the self-emptying for you built in to the vacuum itself, as opposed to doing it back at the station. So it's a really clever design. This can really compress the dirt and the dust so you can get weeks and weeks of use with this, just like you would a typical vacuum bag in a self-emptying station. So their dust compression technology is top notch, but that's why they still give you what they call the spare dustbin if you want to have a more traditional experience and you don't want to use the disposable bags. Now you have your spare dustbin that you'll just have to manually empty, but up to you which one you want to use. Moving on to the side of the vacuum, specifically the very front, we have our sensor suite right here. We have some more sensors on the side that we'll look at. There's the navigational bumper. On the back side, we have our charging contacts. Here's a look at the other side with some more sensors there. And then we're back to the very front. Looking at the underside, two spring-loaded drive wheels. We have our omnidirectional wheel, two smaller roller wheels on the top there. Look at our mop pads. These are dual rotating mop pads, but with a triangular design. Just another area that NARWAL uses to set itself apart versus the competition that typically just has your circular mop pads. This triangular pattern gives better overlap and coverage during scrubbing and cleaning. Then front and center, we have one of the best features about this vacuum. It's gonna be their upgraded roller brush with that conical shape. So any hair that accumulates on the brush will spin around and the brush gets smaller and smaller with that conical shape design until the hair comes to the very end where it gets sucked out and off the roller and into the dustbin. So the hair spins around and goes through there. This is phenomenal for long human hair, pet hair. It really basically eliminates all tangles altogether, which is why you're now seeing Dreamy and Roborock release this style, albeit a little bit differently. Dreamy has a dual roller design. Roborock has basically a singular split one where it meets in the middle. But get one with the conical shape design if you have issues with pet hair or human hair with your current RoboVac. This is a much needed upgrade. I can't stress that enough. And last but not least, we have our color-coded spots for our side cleaning brushes. So they do only fit one way, if that makes sense. We have a little bigger and smaller spot there. So let's make sure we have it lined up and then just press it in. Same with our purple one. It's nice that they're color-coded for you. And why this design matters and is different from previous Freo models is to the fact that look at how these can point now. So when they point this way, they're able to get cleaned and detangled, right? And then all that hair points here, goes into the brush roller now. So very clever design with that movement and freedom for hair to detangle off the brushes onto the main roller and into the suction channel right there. So top-notch system for tackling and handling pet hair. And starting at the top of the station, we have our white glossy cover that we can open up to reveal our dirty water tank and our clean water tank. Here's your dirty water tank close up from all sides and angles. And we'll open it up so you can see inside here with the float system that they have for the dirty water. And here's the clean water tank close up from all sides and angles. And then we can open up the clean water tank so you can see it's a little bit different as it sucks the water out versus pushing it in. And labeled at the top of both, we have this little line with the down arrow. That's going to be your max water level indicator, and it's visible on both sides. Here's your look inside with the dirty and clean water tanks removed. And on the top of the cover, if you can see that they actually have a sticker going over the base station buttons and controls. And if you didn't notice, the button is right here on the top. So it's one singular button with 3 different control options. Short press equals a start, pause, or resume the current task. Double click, that's going to be start or cancel mop washing. And a press and hold for 2 seconds is going to end the current task. Here's your left side profile, glossy white finish, grip handle up at the top. Here's your right side profile, glossy white finish with grip handle at the top. Here's a look at the very bottom. This is the back side here. This is the front with the honeycomb, multiple grip feet. Here's a look at the very back. This is the top, this is the bottom. Power plug right here, narwhal information. Then we have a little rubber grommet we can remove to reveal a micro USB port. I'm guessing and assuming that is for troubleshooting and support on their end. It's nothing that you are going to use as the end consumer. And now we're looking at the very front. This is the top, this is the bottom. So again, there's the removable lid for the clean and dirty water tanks, Narwhal's logo and branding. And then down here, we have 2 removable station trays for easy clean and maintenance. And then here's the second one. Just slides right out. And again, those fit on each other there. And inside, this is where it's going to wash, clean, dry itself, as well as charge itself. So all of that happens in there. Now let's charge it up, fill it up, and try it out. we just finished our first clean. Well, actually, it was a couple of cleans. It's been running for a couple of days now at my house. So let's take a look at the real world results. So starting with the top, everything looks great. Couple of pieces of hair, just the typical stuff you would expect to accumulate. Let's get to the good stuff now, though. We'll start with the dustbin here. Oh, take a look at that. That is already really full of pet hair. And you can see some of the crumbs at the bottom there. Let's dump all the contents out and look at it in more detail. All right, let's get that all dumped out here. So take a look at the inside, just the really fine dirt and dust that's left behind. We can check that with the filter too. Filter looks really good still, but I can see some really fine dust already trapped in there. And then there's a look at all of the contents. Everything's compressed up here. We got a lot of crumbs and debris, tons of pet hair, human hair. I see some leaves, paper, food, sticker, popcorn kernel, just the typical stuff you'd expect to find around your house, whether that's hair, human hair, pet hair, crumbs, dirt, debris. It's going to vacuum it all up. Making our way around the side of the vacuum. Everything looks great here. Just keep an eye on the sensors and the charging contacts. Make sure they're free from any obstructions or dust. You can gently wipe them down. And looking at the underside, everything looks great. Keep in mind all the hair that we vacuumed up already. Nothing tangled on either of the side brushes. And looking at the main brush roller, I see a couple of pieces of hair left over here, but they're loose, and you can just tell they're going to easily work their way down and out when the vacuum starts again. So look at how flawless this is. That design is top notch. It's the best of the best. That's what you want to get if you have hairy households, for basically no or very minimal hair accumulating on the brush roller. Like I said, the two pieces that we had here, those were already well on their way working down on the roller to be vacuumed out on the next pass. Now, looking at the mop pads here, they're really wet. I'm not sure what was going on with this before. I might blame my kids because they're really wet, so I can tell whatever happened, it didn't finish drying, and they like to push the button up there on the station. But anyways, a little bit shocking here that we have some dirt accumulating around the triangular part here on both of the brushes. I was expecting it to be a little bit cleaner, but I gotta say our floors have been exceptionally muddy with this really wet, wintry weather that we've had here. It's like thawing and freezing, and my dog has really muddy paws when he comes in, but that's just something to keep an eye on. It is washing, cleaning, and drying them, but there might still be some manual maintenance where every once in a while you might want to peel these off, throw them in the washer, and you'll be good to go again. But so far, so good. No hair tangles. That is really key with this system. I don't know, I just can't stop talking about it. The way they've redesigned this, it's just so clever with how everything works to remove the hair. So it's a big deal for households like mine with long-haired individuals. I got 3 people in my house with hair down to their shoulders and beyond, and a 70-pound dog that looks kind of like a golden retriever. So think about that longer, thicker fur. It is so nice to have something like this where we don't have to constantly clean, detangle, and maintain it. Let's spend a minute looking at the NARWAL app. I'll give you a brief overview of the key settings and customization options. So here's a look at our device. We can select it to enter in. Top right-hand corner, we have all of our settings here. So we'll look at our clean settings. We can adjust when we want it to wash the mops, either by area or by room. We can toggle on or off edge mode, always or smart. Basically, that's where it's going to wiggle thoroughly to clean along the edges, giving you some extra extended reach. And then we have our house cleaning sequence, so we can choose the map for that. Then we can go back. We have our general settings, stairless mode, do not disturb, high altitude mode, child lock, which I definitely needed to turn on, family with pets, off-peak charging. They do support off-peak charging to save you money. Auto power off, so a lot of settings there. And then we have our base station settings, so auto dustbin, bag bacterial control, toggle that on or off, drying intensity, base station default cleaning mode, so pick and choose which one you want for the play button right there. to activate if you just want to quickly conduct a clean without getting your phone out. Then we have our map management options here, so we can pick and choose our map, and it supports up to 4 maps at one time. Then we have our manage accessories. This is where it gives us basically a breakdown of common parts and components and when it's time to conduct maintenance or replace them. We have language and voice options here if you want to adjust the volume or change languages. So here's a look at our language options for those that are curious. Got a good mix here. Look at all the languages. And then third-party controls at the bottom. If you want to set this up with Siri, you can do that right here from within the app. Back at our main screen with our map overview, we have room and zone cleaning options, and we can add multiple zones. Looks like we can add 5 zones at one time. And below the room and zone options, we can customize our clean. So here's a custom one. So we could set that up right here. We can adjust that for each individual room. What do we want the cleaning settings to be? Or we can just do a mop only option here, and we can adjust how many times, the humidity, and the coverage. We can just do a vacuum only, same thing. You can adjust the suction power and precision and coverage, or vacuum then mop. And again, Freo Mind, you can toggle that on or off for each of these modes. I just hit the question mark so you guys could see and learn more about the Freo mode if you want to turn it on. Basically, let NARWAL handle it all automatically for you. Up to you though, but tons of settings here, and it just explains it in more detail. Basically, it's like a really advanced AI auto mode. Or again, you can manually specify your settings, and then you can do vacuum and mop. So I like these features. This is what you want to see: vacuum and mop, vacuum then mop, vacuum only, and mop only. Definitely a nice touch there. And again, toggle on or off Freo Mind if you want. And more cleaning settings takes us back to the settings that we already looked at. And then you just start the clean down at the bottom right there. And speaking of down at the bottom, we have a scheduling option, so you can add schedules, and you can also view your cleaning history. Back at the map here on the right-hand side, going up towards the top of the screen, we have a little station icon. Here's a look at our station options. So we can turn on or off the dust canister disinfection if we want to run that. We can wash the mop or start drying the mop. And then we have the accessory option here. Gives you a status and breakdown of the main accessories down at the bottom right there. And above that station icon on the right-hand side, we have our map options. Map management takes us back to the map settings we already looked at. And right here, we have our map editing at the center of the screen, so we can select our map. This is where we can customize our map by rearranging rooms, renaming them, splitting, merging, changing floor material. A lot of you want to set up no-go zones, so we can add those right here. So no vacuuming or mopping, no vacuuming or no mopping, multiple zones that you can add. Everything is drag and drop and highly customizable. So if you can't tell in our overview, there's a lot of customization and control options to get the clean exactly how you want it. Moving on to the specs of our Freo Pro, let's see how it stacks up against the competition. I think you will be pleasantly surprised. First, I like to look at cost. This is a good frame of reference for everything else that's about to follow, so we can have that lens to view it through to know what we're paying and where it stacks up against the competition. Well, for this particular vacuum, the Freo Pro, we're right at the average. So this is going to be what you can expect to pay from your typical average robot vacuum cleaner and mop. Now we can see if we're above or below average in all the other specs and features. Starting off strong, looking at max suction power, 8,500 pascals compared to the average of 5,700. When we look at this through Roborock Crevo series or like the Dreamy L10S, a couple Ecovacs models, we're above those models that compete directly with this one. And again, we're substantially above the average. Continuing on with that same pattern, max CFM comes in above average as well, about 3.1 points above average. Just like suction power, the higher the better here. Usually it's a good leading indicator for us to know that we're going to get actual good and decent performance cleaning. So let's find out how it did. In our deep cleaning test, we were above average by 3%. We embed coffee grounds into carpet and measure before and after results. So we saw good indicators, and in the actual real world test, we got above average as well, which is great to see. That just lets you know that you're getting a very good and capable clean with this vacuum cleaner. Above average, to be exact. Next, let's look at max decibels. We always record this with carpet vacuuming on max suction settings, 6 decibels above average. But if you have this in the room vacuuming at 78 decibels versus your average at 72, you're gonna hear both. One really isn't gonna be that much louder than the other from what you're perceiving with your ears if they're both vacuuming. Battery life shines with the Freo Pro, 210 minutes just like other NARWAL Freo devices compared to the average of 167 minutes. That could be the difference of getting your whole clean done in one pass versus having to go back and recharge and then continue on with that first clean. And the reason we get that great runtime is due to the large 5200 milliamp hour battery capacity. That's 1200 milliamps above the average, but you're not paying any extra for that extra juice. So it's great to see that internally NARWAL's not making any compromises. Better and bigger battery, as well as stronger suction power. In regards to height, very standard height with a LiDAR equipped vacuum, comes in right around 4.2 inches. That's above the average of 3.7 because that average skews lower for models that don't have LiDAR. A feature I like to see on robot vacuums today is self-empty. I'd argue it's basically an essential non-negotiable today. So 67% of the vacuums that we test have self-emptying, but they're done completely differently than how the NARWAL Freo Pro does it. So typically the vacuum will go back to the station and suck out all the contents from the dustbin and put it in a disposable dust bag in the station itself. For the Freo Pro, the self-empty is all done on board in a self-contained dust processing solution, which is a disposable vacuum bag as your dustbin. It's super clever, can help with avoiding clogging, and it uses dust compression technology, giving it up to 7 weeks before you'd have to empty and dispose of the bag. That's well within what you get from self-emptying systems. So they just redesigned it differently, and it's all handled on board. And since it's handled on board, as we look at our next spec, which is dustbin capacity measured in milliliters, we have a massively large dustbin because, you guessed it, it's disposable, and they want to make sure that there's enough room for it to last for weeks. So 1,000 milliliter dustbin capacity, that's over double the average of 415. Typically, we see smaller dustbin capacities on self-emptying models because that is all stored and handled at the station, so you don't need to have a large dustbin on the vacuum itself. And if for some reason you missed it already, this does support mopping. It has a great mopping system. We're also seeing that in about 67% of the vacuums that we've tested. And with that mopping system, it does support mop washing. It doesn't have hot water though. We see that in a lot of models today. And for those that do support hot water mop washing, it comes in at 154 degrees Fahrenheit on average. There are other NARWAL devices that support hot water mop pad washing if you're willing to spend a couple bucks more. But it does have hot air drying. Although it's 14 degrees below the average, it's well within any sort of acceptable range, and it's warm enough to help dry it quicker than models that don't have warm air to dry the mop pads. That just helps keep everything cleaner and free from more bacteria. Therefore, your mop will then be cleaner as it's going back out to mop again. Next, let's talk about mop lift height. The mopping system does support the ability to lift the mop pads up and out of the way when it encounters carpets, 2 millimeters above average. The higher, the better here. That's what you want to see because it just allows for less and less contact or chances of contact with your carpet and rugs. But unfortunately, this mopping system does not support mop pad removal. I can't wait for the day when we see it on NARWAL devices. Dreamy has nailed this feature. Roborock has just started to incorporate it in their top of the line flagship models, and I can't wait for NARWAL to start incorporating it so then we can see it trickle down to their more budget-friendly options like the Freo Pro. Another feature that I've really come to enjoy and love on mopping robots is Mop Extend. We're seeing that in about 15% of models today, where it physically has the ability to kick out a mop pad and extend it to clean along corners and edges. We don't have that physical extension, but NARWAL gets creative with their Mop Extend, where it's called Edge Swing, and it basically wiggles the vacuum to the left and to the right to reach closer to the edges in corners. It's not perfect, but it's better than nothing, so it gets a check with an asterisk. And Mop Extend isn't the only extension I like to see on vacuums today. I also like the side brush reaching feature. This does not have side brush reach, nor did I expect it. It's only something we see on flagship models still in about 2%, but basically some of these vacuums can kick out one of their side brushes to reach into corners where the vacuum can't get, and that really does help get any debris that has settled in those corners. Another feature absent from the Freo Pro is dual roller brushes. We have yet to encounter any NARWAL device with dual rollers. They've always had single rollers. So I'm not expecting that in the future. We're seeing some flagship high-end models from Dreamy and Roborock starting to incorporate dual roller systems. This single roller brush though, with its cone-shaped design, is top-notch as it is. So personally, I don't see a point to that unless there's some sort of added benefit for dust or debris pickup, but it does a really good job as it is. And that's thanks in part to its dual tangle-free system with that cone-shaped brush, as well as the two side brushes that can basically collapse in on themselves to free up hair tangles to be vacuumed up and out of the way. So they do a really good job. Haven't seen that side brush design on any other vacuum yet, so NARWAL continues to innovate, just like they started with the cone-shaped brushes with that conical design, and now we see Dreamy and Roborock following suit. I bet in the near future we'll start to see those other brands also incorporating this side brush design. It is really spectacular for what it is, because a lot of times you'll notice on side brushes, if you have long-haired individuals or even pets in your house, think like shoulder length hair and beyond, they'll start to wrap around those side brushes and you'll have to cut them away every once in a while. No longer do you have to do that with how these are designed. Very clever. Next up is video monitoring. There's no camera access or anything where we can do live photo or video viewing from within the Freo Pro. A lot of you out there will celebrate that for privacy and security concerns. I personally like to have that feature. We're only seeing it in 14% of vacuums so far that we've tested, so not expected to be on the Freo Pro, but if it was, I would personally welcome it because I like using it as a home monitoring and security device, but I also understand the other side of people that don't want to have it and have those privacy concerns. And last but not least, let's talk about solution dispensing. So our Freo Pro does not have any solution dispensing capabilities. We're only seeing that also in 14% of vacuums that we've tested, but I did want to mention that you can buy separately cleaning tablets to use if that's something that's of importance to you. I was hoping that we would actually have built-in solution dispensing given the history of NARWAL with its mopping systems and how good they are, but at least they gave us that compromise of being able to use cleaning tablets so we're not left high and dry. Alright, so where does that leave us in regards to the NARWAL Freo Pro? Well, it's only fitting if we talk about the pros first. See what I did there? Anyways, I think the best thing about this vacuum is going to be its hair detangling system. I've always been a big fan of NARWAL's cone-shaped brush roller. It's one of the best out there to basically avoid all hair tangles, whether that's human hair or pet hair. They've continued to refine that further with the best side brushes we've ever seen. So they continue to innovate and lead in that category. So if hair and hairy households is one of your top issues and priorities, but you're on a tight budget where you can't buy the best of the best flagship, well, this is going to be a very solid contender. You'll be hard-pressed to find anything else that competes. But that's not all. True to NARWAL's name and brand and the reputation that they've built, the triangular-shaped mop pads and mopping system overall are still very good and very capable on this vacuum. They really haven't made any compromises besides hot water mop washing and solution dispensing. That's not the end of the world if you ask me. It'd be nice to have those features, but again, this is geared towards somebody that really values vacuuming and mopping, but's on a budget. And last, I think a lot of you out there will really enjoy the disposable dust bin system. It's really cool and just a clever way to reimagine and rethink the typical way that robot vacuums work and operate. But the good news is they also still give you the traditional dust bin as well, if that's the route that you choose. So those are the pros with the Pro, but let's talk about some of the things we'd want to see improved with our Pro in the future. The first one I think would be side brush reach and mop extend. The wiggle's better than nothing, but I'd like to see the full-fledged mop extension. Also, hot water mop pad washing, solution dispensing, so you don't have to buy tablets, and you can have it all done automatically. Those would be some of the key things I'd want to see changed with this in the future. And then lastly, I only really noticed this during filming because I needed to have the vacuum charged so we could resume filming some more footage of it. But when it's activated in its dust canister disinfection mode, it doesn't also charge the vacuum at the same time. I thought that was really Interesting. Maybe they can fix that software-wise, maybe not. I think for the average user, you wouldn't really notice it, but for content creators, if you're waiting for it to charge back up and it happens to activate that mode and you're not paying attention, it's not going to move the needle in regards to re-energizing the vacuum and charging it back up until after that's done.